Welcome to the February 1914 episode of my Blast from the Past. Here's what I'll be covering. More about the storm of the century, a trained dog act, an unfortunate car accident, and, of all things, Ford tires and baby's teeth. Don't touch that dial. As February began, our city was still recovering from the 500-year flood that hit us near the end of January. One man was working on a damaged house at Coda and Bath Streets and must have had his guardian angel with him this day. As the house was being raised up off its foundation, it slipped and fell on him. Fortunately, he had better luck than the Wicked Witch in The Wizard of Oz. The soil underneath him gave way, and he was not seriously injured, according to the local paper. I checked the cemetery records, and I did not find him buried here, so he must have survived. Well, you know how newspapers sometimes exaggerate things? That's nothing new. Several European papers reported that everywhere from San Jose to Los Angeles was underwater, and that 10,000 people had been swept away by a tidal wave. Santa Barbara residents started receiving "Are you okay?" telegrams from friends and relatives in Europe. The exaggerated reports in European newspapers should remind us that just because it's in print or on the internet doesn't mean it's true. As they say in journalism, if your mother says she loves you, check it out. I thought my downward dog was pretty good, but this dog has me beat, that's for sure. A trained animal act packed the Portola Theater on State Street this month to see Teddy, the Russian wolfhound, do his thing. He was accompanied by a group of trained goats in tights. Okay, just kidding about the tights, but there was a trained goat act that warmed up the crowd for the Tedster. And by the way, Teddy, the Russian wolfhound, couldn't they come up with a more Slavic-sounding name? How about Vladimir or Yakov or Borat instead? A man in Montecito was cranking the starter on his car when something went horribly wrong and he ended up with a broken arm. A classic car collector told me, "Most cars into the mid-30s had crank holes at the base of the radiator shell for insertion of the crank. The danger of the crank happens when a person is turning the engine over using the crank and the car backfires. A backfire forces the engine to abruptly reverse direction. If your arm is turning the crank in a clockwise direction when the backfire occurs, the result is often a broken arm." Ouch. If only the driver had waited a year. In 1915, a Dayton, Ohio man named Charles Kettering received a patent for the electrical starter motor. He went on to become the founder of Delco. The name Delco comes from Dayton Engineering Laboratories Company. Here's some more car news. The headline, "Ford Tires and Baby's Teeth," was in a local paper in February, and it was inspired by the witty reply of a local newspaper writer. The origin of the remark began with a humorous article in Harper's Weekly magazine about the popularity of Ford cars. The magazine noted, "Every second baby you meet is cutting its teeth on a Ford tire." The local newspaper replied tongue-in-cheek that it has "microscopically examined 148,762 Ford tires for infantile teeth marks. It is manifestly difficult with our present equipment to differentiate with scientific accuracy between nail marks, spike marks, tack marks, and infantile teeth marks. If this investigation is still further to be prosecuted, and the teeth-cutting resiliency and prophylactic properties of the Ford tire are to be considered an asset, we recommend the addition of a well-equipped dentist to the staff of this bureau. I couldn't have said it better myself. Well, that's the news for February. Stay tuned for the news from March 1914 in the next episode of my Blast from the Past. The featured items will be: a pilot cheats death in Hope Ranch, Helen Keller visits family here, a Scottish comedian stops by, and Talking Pictures debut in our fair city. You won't want to miss it.